You guys are going to get so sick of seeing me this week. I have quite a few videos planned and in the works, and I'm just going to try to keep up with it. I wasn't quite ready to commit to any kind of one video a day in December, but I am like a lot of resellers like to do this time of year. A lot of vloggers like to do that. But I decided to just kind of up my game a little bit and just add a little bit more content this month. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I sold my Rookwood trivet. It's so exciting. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but I also wanted to point out, if you look at the top of my screen, all the different tabs I'm about to show you about what sold. Look at Ruby Lane. Okay, we're going to talk about why Ruby Lane showed up that week. eBay was so-so. This is the week of November 20th to the 26th, so that was a holiday week. That explains a lot. But I'm going to start with eBay. I'm going to talk about this. Okay, another item that Mr. Pishposh should be sitting here with me because he bought it. We were together. Man, I forgot it's speech recognition software. Okay, that's all I know. He saw it at Goodwill. We were together one day, and he picked up 2 of them. There were 2 brand new sealed ones. And I think he did have to pay like $20 or something for each one. I remember it was a little bit higher than just what normally we would consider thrift prices. But he had looked them up and they seemed worth it, so he had 2, he sold 1. It's kind of spoiler alert because you can see we are out of stock. We did sell 2, both of them already. The second one will be in next week's What Sold video because we sold them about a week apart. Okay, so $90 for the Nuance Dragon Naturally Speaking Home Edition. Just in case you wanted to know. This was a hat that I believe sold for $30, as I am never ready, but you guys are used to that. So I believe it was 30. High end, we've talked about this before when we talk about our hats. High end car brands are definitely hats for us that seem to do a little bit better. There's a bunch of Ford hats and other car brands that are out there, especially for trucks and things like that. But kind of the luxury cars, that's a little bit different. And plus, this one was a K Products Made in the USA vintage hat. So that was really exciting. We did aim a little bit higher on this, but ended up taking a $30 offer for that. And then we go from the highs to the lows. This was just something my husband picked up at the bins. And it's just a clear acrylic pepper mill or salt mill. Nothing special. It was made in England. No brand or anything like that. And it got quite a bit of interest actually for all of that being true. And it was just one by itself. It wasn't like it was part of a set or anything. And so finally, this was kind of funny. We did have a buyer who kept offering us less. And first it was like, it would make a really good present for grandma. I don't know. They were trying all sorts of different things to tug on our heartstrings, I guess. And then finally, it probably was the same buyer, but my husband just ended up taking a $10 offer because he was tired of talking to people about it. $10, good enough. Another hat sold. This is a Buell. I didn't know anything about it. I picked it up at the bins, but it was new with tags. Turns out it was motorcycles. And, there were some comps that I saw later and I was like, oh, it's not as exciting as I thought it would be, but still worth listing, especially since we got it at the bins and pay, less than a quarter probably for it. It did go internationally and sold for $18. vintage 1967 Coleman Lantern. We actually do kind of keep an eye out for vintage Coleman lanterns. That's kind of a tip for you for a bolo. We have sold some really good ones in the past. There's like a whole, probably rabbit hole you could dive down into lanterns. We sold a red one time, I think, for about $80. And condition is kind of important, but sometimes just more like rare models will still sell, even if they're a little bit rusty or whatever. So very interesting little side thing to kind of keep an eye out for, just, you know, in case you happen to see them at yard sales or estate sales or something like that. So this one sold for $50 plus the shipping, as always. And then here we go. Okay, so it didn't sell for the full asking price of $400. Right away, I got a message from a collector, and he told me that he was willing to pay $250. And he explained that he thought that's about what the going price was for trivets at that time. Now, I think I had told you when I found my trivet, if you haven't seen that thrift haul video, I'll just kind of recap very briefly. I picked it up at the thrift store. It was $4. It was half off that day for kitchenware, so I got it for $2. And I recognized the Rookwood mark on the back, which I'll show you right now. It has the date there. There was a whole story about how I misunderstood the date. And so 1924 is when this turns out that this pottery trivet dates from. So almost 100 years old, in beautiful condition. And so I had seen comps from 400 and 500 and 600 down to 150. So I started at $400. And like I said, someone offered me $250 right away, and he was very polite and everything. And so I just said, you know, that I had just listed it, but that I would keep his offer in mind, because $2 into $250, not a problem for me. And then I got an offer. Let me go back. Then I got an offer for $350 a few days later. And so we packed it up. We sent it to California, so it didn't really have to go that far, which was great. We got feedback, and they said it was well packaged. It made it there safely. They were so happy that I offered it. So that's exciting. $2 into $350 for a Rookwood Pottery Crow trivet from 1924. This is going at the top of my thrifting list for 2023, I believe. Not at the top, but like one of the top ones. I'll have to do a recap video. I think I will. Okay, Marmet. This one sold for $42. And goose down, I thought I'd get a little bit more money out of this one. I think I don't remember my exact what I paid, but I know I paid more than I normally do, because I remember which thrift store I picked it up at, and I don't think there was a sale that day, but I went ahead and paid it. So I don't think I did so great on this vest at all. So the success a lot of times with flipping and reselling comes in the buying, right? So you're making your money when you buy, right? That's what they say. So I should have just said, you know what? It's too rich for my blood. I think I will just let this one go. Honestly, I did think it would go higher, but we didn't get a whole lot of interest. Could have been the color. Green, this color green might not have been super popular. I don't know. Anyway, $42. Now we sold this Harris tweed. It is coming back to us because it did not fit the buyer the way that they liked it, the way they preferred. I don't know. We had measurements. We had all sorts of, you know, all the information that we usually include for our clothing listings, and that's fine. We had actually sold it for $55, not $90. it didn't fit. You know, sometimes that just happens. It's hard to, I would be really hard. I don't buy a whole lot of clothing off the internet because I'm thrifting all the time. So I find all my clothing at thrift stores. And so it would be kind of hard for people to buy clothing and know that it's, especially vintage, know that it's going to fit exactly right. So no problem. They're sending it back and we're just waiting to get that. Another hat. We were just talking about how it's not really hat season, but then we sold a bunch of hats. So I guess hat season is all year round. This is an Alaska hat. We've mentioned Alaska before. You know, we come across probably more Alaska items than up here in the Pacific, in the Northwest, than you might find in other parts of the country. But we've mentioned that with hats before. Vintage, kind of obscure Alaska related items seem to do pretty well. So this one's no exception. Yeah, Wrangell, Alaska. I don't even know where that is. But we sold it for $18.99. That one came from the bins. Here's another funny sale. Okay, so I found Denby. Denby, if we want to talk about dinnerware brands, Denby can be really good, but it also, there are patterns that will not do well. So it's very hit or miss. You have to, you know, kind of do your research. Well, this one I think even says the name of the pattern right on the back of it. Yes. So when I was at the store, I was like, well, let me look up Denby Baroque, and I was like, oh, Denby, that's a good pattern for Denby. So I picked up, I think it was 3 salad plates and 1 bread and butter plate. So the bread and butter by itself was not going to be so great. So I sold the 2 salad plates by themselves. And then I lotted up 1 salad plate and 1 bread and butter plate. Well, the 2 salad plates sold like really fast for like $50. And I was like, okay, then these sat. And I was like, it doesn't usually work to match up stuff that doesn't really quite go together. Like, it takes so much longer. So I was just, so then I went back to that thrift store, like, I don't know, the next time I was at that thrift store, I looked and they had more of this pattern, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I think they might have had salad plates and dinner plates or something like that. I don't know, they're upstairs. Well, what happens sometimes is my thrift store finds come home, they're kind of where I see them, where I needed to remove stickers, whatever. Company was coming, we put a bunch of stuff out in the garage, and then they ended up like getting buried, and I didn't quite consciously forget about them, but they weren't at the top of my mental to-do list to get listed. So I was just cleaning out the garage. We were working on organizing and kind of reacquainting ourselves with what we had out there, hopefully trying to clear some space so I can park my car in the garage again. And I come across the plates I bought, and I thought, oh, I'm going to end that listing and I'm going to re-divvy up whatever it is that I bought, you know, the plates and the whatever, and the bread and butter. Maybe I'll just put it on there by itself. It ended up selling like that day or that next day. So I'm not complaining because now I don't have to refigure like a listing or something. But it sold for $39.99. So it's a good pattern for Denby Baroque. That's a nice long story. Okay, so then let's go over to Poshmark. Poshmark, I sold one of the Rain Spooner shirts from that haul from back in the, whenever that was, late winter, early spring. And this one was actually a pretty good price for Rain Spooner, $40. I kind of called it a gentleman's club. There's a dog, there's like a half-naked woman playing the piano or something like that. And anyway, got a $40 offer, so I went ahead and took that. Here's a Bolo brand for you to add to your list if you don't know it. I don't know that it's just a men's brand. I think Marine Layer, I think they might do women's clothes. I've only ever found a couple men's pieces, but it's a good brand to keep an eye out for. So the label is there for you to see. Now, one thing to know about them, this was a nice thick, like shacket type jacket. Shacket is a shirt and a jacket. And it said Marge. So I'm thinking that's the name of the style of the shirt, but no, Marge is their sizing system. So it falls somewhere between a medium and a large, and they call it a Marge. Just in case you ever come across that again. The small and the medium was, I don't remember. They have another name for like a small and a medium together, like a smedium or something like that, but don't quote me on that one. And just a beanie, another kind of basic beanie we picked up at our local little thrift store bins. And that sold for $16. Not a whole lot going on Posh. I've been working it a little bit harder and sales have picked up. So now let's talk about Ruby Lane. So Ruby Lane, this is covering, like I said, holiday week, but then it covered, Black Friday. So Ruby Lane runs a sale every Black Friday kind of weekend. And a little controversial with the way they do sales on Ruby Lane. You do not have to participate, but they'll run different percentages. But at some point, they went from doing just like 20% sales a few times a year to doing a lot more sale events throughout the year, but then also upping the percentage. So the Black Friday sale is a 50% sale. Okay, I know, 50%. That's kind of annoying. And so I just got to thinking, I wasn't going to participate. Some sellers do, some sellers don't. Some are just kind of adamant about how 50% is just way too much. It's devaluing the whole site, making it seem more like a garage sale. That's a whole nother debate. But I decided that I would just go ahead. A lot of people mention that when they include items in the sale or participate in the sale, they also sell full priced items as well. So it's just increased traffic and increased traffic even on the site. So I decided to participate. And plus I thought, you know what, if I can clear out some old listings, because especially on Ruby Lane, I don't have, you don't have the audience like you do on eBay. They don't really have an easy delist, relist, kind of refresh that you can do. And so if I have like stuff that's older that I need to get, maybe if I decide, it's been on Ruby Lane too long, I need to physically like create a new listing on eBay or someplace else. It's a lot of work. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather just kind of not cut my losses, but just get a smaller profit and just move some more items. So I was happy with the results I got because I did get some full price items to sell. I also helped myself by listing throughout that week. So this is like the very beginning of the sale, what you're seeing this week. The sale continued on into the next week, and you'll see I had some sales more than usual there as well because I was consistently working my shop as well as having the items on sale, and had, quite a few full price items sell. This was another thing. This brooch sold the day before the sale started for my full asking price of $40. So the brand is Coro. It's marked Coro Craft. It's just kind of one of the lines. It was an enamel. When you look at it really up close, it looks really dirty and needs a good cleaning. For the naked eye, just kind of wearing it, it looked pretty good. Another brooch sold. This was in the sale, and this sold for half price. Yes, I would have been happier to get $28, but $14 I can, jewelry to me has been a little bit harder to sell as the economy slowed down a little bit. But I'm also not, it's one of my niches, and I don't give all my niches full power all the time. So I kind of hop around a little bit. Jewelry has not gotten a whole lot of attention from me lately. So I was happy to just move some of it along. This sold for $14. This was a super cute little butter dish. The pottery brand is Clemenson's. And let me see. Here we go. Here's our mark. It's marked pretty clear. The California Clemenson's. So it's California pottery. And I kind of kept this one for a while. It's a covered butter dish, but I didn't really have a place to display it or anything. But I love folk, kind of, even though this is Californian, it kind of has that European folk look to it to me. Kind of like a distelfink, or, you know, something you would see on, what do you call that? Pennsylvania Dutch type stuff. Okay, and then a necklace sold during the sale. This sold for $20. It's just no name. It looks a lot like the Swarovski crystal bezel set necklaces, but those are generally marked Swarovski. So this was a no name, but just a pastel bezel set crystal necklace. It doesn't have a clasp. It just goes over your head. And so $20 was a good price for that. Okay, so this next, let's see, here it is. The next 6 items, if you look real quick, these next six items all went to the same buyer. This is their purchase order. So if we look up close, I think everything she bought in that was from the sale. So that was the other benefit to having the 50% off, is that then people would come in and just buy more than one item. And just, you know, she was the biggest order I got, but she ordered 6 things. And even though they were all half price, it totaled about $80 when all was said and done. And I moved 6 items at once. We only had to deal with 1 packing box, and saved a lot of time. And I made $80, so that was good. So this one and this one I found together. They're Ransgill. They're crystal, and they kind of have this overlay of like gold on the glass. And the candle holders sold for, or the bud vases, sorry, I'm thinking candle. I got candles on the brain. These bud vases sold for $18. And then this, another kind of vase, or rose bowl they call it, sold for $16. And then also in her order were these super cute lady portrait prints. I sold those for $16. It was kind of cool, the glass. It looks like paper, like a mat, but it's actually painted on the glass. So it's like reverse painted onto the glass. And then the picture was just like a print behind it. She also bought this necklace, mid-century, sold for $14. Yeah, I would have liked to get a little bit more for it because I think it's awesome. But it's no name. It's just kind of a generic mid-century plastic and enamel. Was it enamel? No, the flower petals were plastic with some rhinestones. And then she bought this enamel brooch that was green for $6 with a rhinestone center. And last but not least, this little bunny rabbit. It's a cotton ball dispenser. I like to pick these up. They generally do pretty well. You know, bread and butter, just kind of basic. But you can see there's the hole in the back and you can pull out cotton balls from it. So that sold for $10. I have sold them for $15 to $20 before in the past. That's her order. And then the last one for that week on the Sunday was these were full price as well. $15 for these 2 aluminum shortening and ice cream serving spoons. One in a regular aluminum color and one in copper colored aluminum. Moving over to Etsy, I had a couple pattern sales, and this one is a McCall's 8362, sold for $10. It's just a unisex hooded like pullover type jacket or shirt. This is a Simplicity men's. This one was they used the same envelope or packaging for men's and women's. Some of the newer I don't know how to call it unisex, but when they have both, a lot of the newer patterns will include both the men's and the women's pattern in here. But this was like from the 70s. It was a little bit older of a pattern. And so they would just use the same envelope for the men's shirt and then the same envelope for the women's. So this was for a men's size small, very specifically. That sold for $12. And then this Vogue pattern for purses sold for $14. And over in the other vintage shop, these little candle holders sold for $35. They had no name on them. I passed them a couple times at the thrift store, and I thought, oh, they're so cool. They're so mid-century. I was hoping they would be marked like made in Sweden or something like that, and there was no markings. And I left them once or twice, and then they just were still always there at the thrift store. And I thought, you know what? That's it. That's enough. I need to buy them. So I did, and they sold on Etsy, or they do that style can do pretty well. Mid-century stuff. And this Dansk Designs, the pattern is Blue Mist. It was a sugar bowl, or it could have been, you could do any kind of condiment in it. I love the fact that it had the spoon with it, the ceramic spoon. And I picked this up on our road trip back in the early summer out to Washington. And it was made in Japan. It's interesting, the sold on eBay was like $9. And we had it on both eBay and Etsy, and we were asking, no, maybe we didn't. I thought I had listed it. I remember my husband went to list it, and I was like, I already listed that. And then I realized I never did. So he went ahead, he threw it in that shop, and it sold for $24 on Etsy. And probably faster than it would have on eBay. So you just never know. And then this one, I think this is really cool. It's a men's valet, like a valet. You could call it a little trinket or coin dish. But it's got the brass duck's head. And I don't know, he only got $14 for it. And I probably would have priced it higher, but it probably would have sat longer. I don't know. He probably did the research and just saw they weren't going for very much. But anyway, $14. What do you think? Would you have tried to get more money for that? Not that we want to criticize Mr. Pish Posh, because he does too much for me to criticize. And then plus he's always like pricing other stuff like super high. It all evens out in the wash. And our last sale for the week that I'm going to talk about is this 1965 Sears Dymo label maker. So yeah, we sold one last week. We had this one to sell as well. I'm pretty sure we're running out of these Dymo makers because we had a stash of them, but they've been slowly just kind of trickling out as they just sell pretty well. So $40 for that. And again, we've said they sell better on Etsy for better prices. Certain models will sell nice on eBay, but these just kind of generic little vintage ones, they don't sell for as much on eBay. They'll sell pretty well on Etsy. Okay, that's it for me. I am going to get this video ready and pop it out tomorrow. And so I hope you guys are having a great week of reselling, not doing too much, not overdoing it. I hope your fourth quarter is going well. So please just go ahead, leave a comment and let me know how your sales were and what your favorite sale was for the week. I will talk to you again soon.